But some of the insights that even came from that, like the example of you saying that perhaps if there's something that your heart didn't consider to be true, like that it would actually cause pain to your heart. Like I took a sabbatical a number of years ago, and I wandered around with a notepad, and when you do tally marks, just literally, it wasn't this self-flagellating experience. I was just like, holy shit, I've lied to myself about a substantial narrative in my life. So now I was just making marks every time I told either an embellishment, my intentions weren't coherent with what I was presenting to somebody else, and it was amazing to see. But I think the thing that became more interesting to me, it wasn't that if someone goes around calling each other liars, it's the things that we inflict upon ourselves by playing certain games or deceiving ourselves. Like I always think there's an amazing capacity we have to do that. So I think that's a beautiful felt experience of like, oh my God, my heart hurts when I do that. Like even to know that on some subtle level that can be occurring.
One of my favorite expressions is love is mutually accelerating disclosure, which is like whenever you've been on a date with someone you're falling in love with and you just start telling them everything and then they start telling you everything. In fact, there's this really cool study that a guy called Arthur Aaron did where he got 36 questions and he got two people from opposite genders, strangers, to ask these questions to each other and then stare into each other's eyes for 4 minutes. And I did it. I've been married for 10 years. I did it with my wife on date night. And like a lot of the questions, well, no, a few of the questions were kind of redundant because we knew that about each other, but a surprisingly large amount were not. And they increase in intensity. I'd really recommend anyone listening to do it because it was a really deepening exercise for us, because what it is mutually accelerating disclosure. But I've come to believe reality works the same way. That the more you show of yourself, and you have to show first, the more reality shows back. I gave an interview this time last year to a friend about what it's like to really be very mentally ill in Manhattan. Like all of these crazy spiritual experiences, like psychotic depression, the ketamine therapy that got me out, all of this stuff. And I was like, I'm notionally like a serious professional, right? And I have some sort of professional identity, although I hold that pretty loosely. Like this could get me fired. This is an unapproved interview that I've given off on the side. And instead, that evening, a woman called Mona Sobhani reached out to me, and she had a similar crisis of rationality, and she wrote a book essentially going through the evidence in favor of psychic and spiritual phenomena. And that her work was the biggest single confrontation to my worldview that I've ever experienced. So basically, it was as if the universe was like, all right, you have just given the most open and vulnerable account of yourself that you've ever given in public. As a result, we are going to respond immediately by showing you something that you've never seen before and you need to see because it will take you in a positive new direction that you weren't expecting. And Mona has since become a really good friend. And she's introduced me to another one of her friends who's become a really good friend. And they have opened my eyes. So it's this whole idea of like, when you lie to yourself, you close off that channel. And when you lie to others, you close off that channel and people can't work out who you are.
Yeah. And you can't even work out who you are. Like it can be a real entangled web, if you know what I mean.
Well, I think about this idea. Sorry, I wanted
No, no,
to say
please.
something. I think about this idea. Dante's third circle of hell is, sorry, not third, the final circle of hell is Satan trapped up to his chest in ice because he betrayed God's love. And I think that works as a metaphor because it's when we refuse to leave a circumstance that's not working for us, as I was saying at the beginning, it's like we're betraying God's love, right? We don't believe we are loved and we don't have faith in that love. And as a result, we don't move. And when we don't move, we get stuck. We close ourselves off to that potential direction that we can get in life, that flow that we can get in life. So we're actually betraying ourselves. And as a result of betraying ourselves and not letting that love in, we get stuck. And that's something I think about all the time, which is when you betray that sense of external love, you get stuck. And you can do that by closing yourself off, by closing your heart and refusing to take these external signals, whether they be synchronicity or whatever.